Smite Talk is proudly sponsored by Tweaked Audio. Go to tweakedaudio.com for high performance, noise reducing earbuds. Use the code OctanePro to get 33% off plus free shipping anywhere in the world. Check out tweakedaudio.com today. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Smite Talk. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 11 of Smite Talk. My name is Octane Pro, and joining me today is the team owner of Mortality eSports. We have Cooper. Cooper, how's it going?
It's going really well. Hope the chat's doing all right, and hopefully you're doing all right.
Excellent, excellent. I am doing well, and those of you guys not familiar, what is Smite Talk? I've heard about it, or I've never seen it on Smite Game. What the show is this is about a 30, 45-minute show, sometimes an hour if we get some really good calls, and it's a show that allows you as the community to call in, and it's just an open discussion, kind of like a radio show where you can call in and talk about different subjects. The topic of discussion for today is Smite. So myself and Cooper are going to kind of have a conversation. We're going to do a quick little interview with Cooper, kind of find out who he is within the community. And then we're going to go into some community questions where you guys can call in. And you don't call in via like your cell phone or anything like that. You actually use a program called Raid Call. And you go ahead and call in right up on screen, bottom left-hand side. It lists the ID. So if you guys aren't familiar with Raid Call, just go download it. I think it's raidcall.com. And you put in the code up on the screen in the search bar. So it's 746-1039. And you can go ahead and call in, and then what will happen is when we have a slot open, I'll go ahead and drag you in, and you can ask questions, you can leave comments, you can just give feedback, whatever you guys kind of want to do. It's a very open environment type of show. It'll last about an hour max, and then I'll be jumping into some viewer games with you guys. Also, I want to remind you guys to make sure that you check out the audio version. The audio version of Smite Talk and also another podcast I do, Smite Update, is available on iTunes, also on the Android store. It's the audio-only version, so if you guys need something to listen to on the way to work or at work or something like that, when you want your Smite fix as a junkie, definitely check it out. So let's kind of jump into it. We have Cooper here on the show. He is the team owner of Mortality eSports. And we'll just kind of start out the interview part with you, Cooper. So I guess the first question we have here is, what has your involvement been in the Smite scene up till now? And when did you actually start looking at Smite as a game?
Sure. So about a year ago, when the game first got into beta, back in June, right, I think it was actually May-ish, end of May, I got invited by one of a buddy I had, and instantly hooked, just like every other community guy in here. You get instantly hooked. Played the game, loved it, played it ever since then. Quit League of Legends, pretty much every other game. They're not even installed on my computer anymore. It's pretty ridiculous.
They're not worthy. They're not worthy.
Right around yeah, they're not at all. But right around July, August area, I wanted to get more involved in the tournament scene. So I joined a league called Woggle at the time, World Online Gaming League. Ran a couple tournaments there. That whole thing kind of fell off.
Sure.
And there was a situation there that we won't go into.
That's right. We do not speak of.
Yeah, so I branched off from that. We don't. I try not to, but that will forever be attached to my name. So
that's right.
So as far as that goes, I kind of laid low for a little while, tried not to get into too much. Worked on Borderland Gaming for a little bit with Demon Machine.
Okay.
Obviously he since has closed that. So again, I just kind of laid low for a little bit, started playing the game a little more. And now, as of August of this year, we opened up Mortality eSports. And that's kind of been my baby. That's been the thing that's been successful. And now our Smite EU team is one of the best in the world. So
yeah. Well, congratulations to you. That's pretty exciting, to have one of the top few teams in the world. I mean, Smite is still growing, as we all know, and a lot of the news going on recently. So that is pretty cool to be able to say that. So I guess kind of walk us through how Mortality EU was formed, and what things you guys, what things go into forming a competitive organization in the Smite scene compared to just, hey, let's get 5 guys together and play Smite, and we'll call ourselves a team. What are the what's kind of walk us through that process of forming a team? How did you guys go through it? What are some of the headaches you ran into? What worked well? What didn't?
Sure. So obviously, when me and this other guy had started it, he is my partner in it. We were looking at Smite as a game that we wanted to start off the organization in.
Sure.
It seemed like a really good fit. I knew the game really well. He knew the game pretty well, and we started looking for some teams. And obviously, back then they were called Imaginary Team.
Yeah.
Talked to them, looked at them a little bit, asked about the community, picked them up, and from there it's pretty much just been they've been with us since the whole time with only one roster change. But I guess the difference would be between just like you said, 5 guys and an organization.
Yep.
Is of course that level of professionalism. When you're just 5 guys, you tend to you do play maybe I would say a little bit better.
Okay.
We kind of see that a lot. When SK broke apart from SK, I think they had one tournament where they played just as themselves.
Yep.
They seem to mesh a little bit better. There's not too much pressure on them. They don't have a bigger name to represent or anything like that, and you can just have fun with it. I mean, that's where you just have fun.
Yeah.
But when you get under a big organization such as Team Dignitas, that's when you have to buckle down and you're actually representing a bigger name than yourself. So, but in terms of the difference, you obviously have to show respect to everybody within the scene. You can't lose. I mean, you can, but you have to stay consistent in your winnings. Whereas if you're just 5 guys, losing may not be as big a deal to you as
Sure.
it was before you got signed to the team. So
Yeah.
I would probably say that's the big key difference is staying consistent.
Sure. No, I could definitely see that. I mean, it's a little bit easier when you do have an organization backing you, in comparison to just 5 guys playing, so it kind of falls off. Oh, if I have something better to do, I'll go ahead and do it. So I could definitely see that without a doubt. Moving on from there, the next kind of question there is, how did you guys go about selecting Imaginary Team? Were you looking at getting a whole team? Were you looking at any point at picking up individual players and forming a team, or how did that process go for you guys?
Well, at first, we definitely looked at some of the teams within the scene that were more stable.
Sure.
Without mentioning any names, we certainly looked at some of the top ones that weren't sponsored at the time, and this was going back 3-4 months ago.
Okay.
And we kind of decided on to look at Imaginary Team and where they were at and the players available. We knew we wanted a certain type of player within our organization. We didn't just want the best team, because sometimes we can, as an organization looking from the outside in, we can see how the teamwork is going to mesh in the future and how the personalities will work in the future that they may not see immediately. So asking around the community, looking at their profiles, we definitely saw that Imaginary Team was the best fit for us.
Okay.
And they were. We picked them up the week that they entered the tournaments. They only played 1 week. They got first place, and we picked them up. It was a risky move, but again, it worked out beautifully. And their personalities, they're such hard workers. They're really dedicated to the game, and their personalities, like I said, work really well with what we're looking for.
Sure. No, that's very true. Final question, then we'll kind of tap into some questions from you guys and chat with you guys via raid call. I want to kind of recap once again what I talked about at the top of the show was, you guys are free to ask questions. I went ahead and put a link in the chat. It's just ask.fm/OctanePro. If you guys don't really have a mic set up or raid call or anything like that, but I encourage you guys to use raid call because, hey, you can come hang out with us. But if you do have raid call and want to download it and just call in, the information is up on screen right below my portrait, gives you the exact information to go ahead and call in and chat with us, and we'll be bringing in some people here shortly. But let's go ahead and ask the final question. Was Mortality EU placed 4th today in the Hi-Rez end of the year 100K tournament, and I know the 10K tournament, but I know the 100K tournament is on the horizon over the next few weeks. What plans do you have to guarantee that your team qualifies for that 100K tournament. And I'll kind of piggyback off of that, giving a little bit more information for you guys in chat. The point system is going to be reset here. I think it's next week. And then the next, I think it's 8 tournaments till February 28th. Are going to be the big runners up to qualify. So depending on where you place in the tournaments over the next several weeks determines how many points you get. Those points contribute to an overall total, and the top few teams from each region are then invited to the 100K tournament, and it'll be pretty visible right around the 28th. So anyways, I'll throw that back to you, Cooper. What plans do you have to guarantee your team will qualify?
Well, that's a loaded question. I cannot guarantee that. I mean, in all seriousness, there's so many good teams out there already, and there's so many good teams coming up because of the new roster change rule and the point systems are being reset. We certainly can't guarantee it, but the players being sponsored by Razer, being sponsored, obviously by the organization, they're going to be really dedicated. We're going to do all our power to push them in that direction, but just from back-end talks, behind the scene of what the players are going to do and how dedicated they are, they're really going to be looking to push it the next step in 2014. So what you've seen from them already in the past couple months, staying, I don't think we fell below second place.
Okay.
We couldn't get above SK, or I guess now Cloud9, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, we couldn't get past them, but in 2014, when the points reset, we're going to be making a big push for first place. So that's really all we can do.
Yeah, definitely. And something to keep in mind, I mean, I definitely hope to see Mortality definitely at the 100K tournament, is what people need to realize too is, and you'll see this in other esports, is online play versus LAN play is completely different. You can have players which are amazing at online play, and they're spot on because they're in their comfort zone, they're playing on their own gear, they're playing in their home or in their bedroom or in a basement or whatever, which they're used to day in and day out. But then you put them in a LAN environment, they could possibly be using different peripherals. I don't know what we'll see at the 100K. I'm hoping Hi-Rez allows you to bring your own keyboard and mouse, but we'll see. Sometimes there can be some tech issues with that with drivers, but you're also sitting in front of hundreds of people. Hopefully we'll see thousands of people at the LAN event. I don't know kind of how that'll work out for Hi-Rez with the venue and all, but it's a completely different atmosphere, having hundreds of people screaming and stuff like that. So, keep in mind as we're starting to look at this, at this point we've only really seen teams rank in online play. And it's really the LAN play that we remember. I mean, we'll go forward remembering the teams that played in the 100K tournament, and so hopefully we definitely see Mortality eSports qualifying for that here in the next few weeks. Before we go ahead, we have 2 topics we want to talk about tonight. Cloud9 HyperX and their involvement and coming into the scene. And then finally, we had a post on Reddit which is labeled "Most Things Requested by You for Hi-Rez to Implement." And then we also have some Erez spoils as well. So I'm just going to get a question or two from the ask.fm and kind of go from there. A few people had a question here for Cooper. They wanted to know, Cooper, do you play Smite yourself, or are you just the owner of Team Mortality?
No, I definitely play. I'm about 20 points away from Gold League, so
Sweet.
As soon as we get done here, I'm going to try and grind those final games out. But it is League, so we know how that goes.
Definitely, I can see that. Let's see, another question here. How do you keep up with ever-changing meta of Smite? Is there a lot of theory crafting that goes on every day within your team or organization, or how does that work?
I mean, obviously watching streamers is pretty key. Looking at the patch notes, obviously. You have to be able to read the patch notes to see what's going on with the changes. But really, there is a lot of good streamers out there. DM Brandon, big theory crafter. Pon, big theory crafter. If you want to get good at that stuff, I would definitely watch some of the streams or look at some of the resources out there. Octane, you put out a lot of stuff. So definitely check them out. But as far as, just keeping on top of it in a general sense, just play the game, really. I mean, if you play 10 games a week, you should be pretty on top of things.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very, very good answer there. We'll definitely take some more questions off of the ask.fm. If you guys are interested, I'll go ahead and put it in chat It's just ask.fm/Octane Pro or Octane Pro. Go ahead and actually let me put the www in there. So you guys can click it. Anyways, go ahead and ask a question there. But if you really feel comfortable, call in. And trust me, I love the people that call in. So let's go ahead and bring in Tutu from Raid Call. We're going to bring him in just a minute here. And keep in mind, he can talk about, he can have questions for Cooper. He can just ask a general Smite question in general. He could just have a comment to make about something. So it could be a little bit of anything, guys. It's kind of a talk show environment. So feel free to call in. Don't be nervous. No question is too over the top. No question is stupid. I definitely encourage you guys to definitely call in. So let's go ahead and bring in Tutu in here. And Tutu, welcome to Smite Talk. How's it going, sir?
Hey, how's it going?
Wait to see if he responds. He's not responding. All right, we'll bring in someone else here then. In the meantime, let's go ahead and bring in Lucent Horse. Lucent Horse, are you there, sir?
Hey, how's it going, man?
How's it
Hey,
going?
how's it going?
You're on Smite Talk with myself and Cooper.
How y'all doing this evening?
Good, yourself?
I'm doing good. I promised you, Octane, that I would go ahead and harass you this evening, right?
Oh, I love the wonderful fan club that I have on stream. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, I haven't heard, I haven't really looked into anything that's coming up for this patch. I don't know if there's any information already out because I'm pretty slow on the uptake on this stuff. But I was kind of curious because I was thinking about it, and a lot of tanks have been turned into bruisers, or sorry, warriors, or in Vulcan's case, a mage. And so we're down to 6 tanks.
Yep.
Do you think that Hi-Rez is going to implement any new tanks anytime soon, coming from a tank person?
Sure.
Tanks.
I'll
Tanks
go ahead
are
and throw that over to Cooper first to kind of get his thoughts.
Sure. I mean, it's only a matter of time before they do. Especially we're going on quite a long time since we have had one. But, there is the new god. I think it's Geb coming out, or Jeb, or something like that. And I think they actually have already labeled him as a bruiser. Or warrior, so I'm not sure if he's going to be a guardian, if they've changed that or not, if they've had a couple weeks in between when he was announced and this next patch, which is coming mid-January, I think they said. So, but it will be eventual, and the thing is when he does come, the new guardian, it's going to be quite a long time before we see another one. So hopefully he'll be really good, but there's really no saying.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing I've started to notice more and more within the game is as you said, it's like another bruiser, and we've seen a lot of these bruisers come out, and God's it's all situational, but I see a lot of tiers built very strongly. Physical power, he has a little bit of integration of protection built in there, but very heavy on physical power. And so it's interesting because we start to see kind of a commonality between a lot of these bruisers. I was just talking about this with Risty on Smite Update podcast. And we were kind of discussing Tyr versus Hercules and how they're both bruisers, but their builds are completely different because of where we see them fitting in within the games that we play. We definitely see Tyr or Hercules filling that role as definitely a bruiser, taking on a lot of that responsibility of as a tank. And a lot of questions came up regarding, with a bruiser, are bruisers becoming better than tanks? Is it better to go with a bruiser selection over a tank selection? Because of the mere fact of with some of your bruisers, you can build just a little bit physical power and a lot of defense, and you end up making out better because they can go ahead and do that additional damage. So I'm hoping we see more tanks implemented. I think, who was our last tank, Athena? Or am I missing somebody in between? Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of Athena.
For her too.
Yeah, I mean, it's when was Athena implemented? It was months and months and months ago. So
Yeah,
I think
it was
we're
back
overdue.
in the summer or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, any just theory craft wise, any guesses as to what pantheons, or rather what pantheons you would actually like a tank to be pulled from?
Mayan. just because we
Right?
need another Mayan god. Just
Yeah,
that's
of
my vote.
course.
So
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was just thinking about like Geb, and I was like, I haven't heard enough about Geb. Let me go ahead and look. And it was interesting because I didn't realize Geb was an Egyptian god, and I feel like we haven't had an Egyptian god since we first started to look at a lot of the gods that were, the first several, I'd say the first handful of gods. So it's kind of cool to see the Egyptian scene kind of getting a little bit more attention.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, yeah. Now I think about it, yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess here's the reading from Wikipedia. It says Geb was the Egyptian god of the earth and a member of the Aeneid, some weird word there, Heliopolis. It was believed in ancient Egypt that Geb's laughter were earthquakes, and that he allowed crops to grow. So I have a feeling this earthquake thing mentioned in here, I think that might be something we see like with an ultimate possibly, for Geb, as possibly an ability there.
So what you're saying is you do not want to take Geb to a comedy show.
Pretty much, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, good
Bad
deal.
times.
I mean, man, that's gonna be troll in game. You're
Yeah.
just laughing at the enemy while you're earthquaking them.
That's right.
BEL. That's like yeah. You do the laugh voice command and you just game right there.
Yeah, that'll be pretty good. Lucid, any more questions you have for us tonight?
Yeah. I was talking to one of my friends and we were talking about how some of the how Hi-Rez have been updating a lot like the
Sure.
player cards for a lot of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems as though they've kind of like not fallen off, but like they've been doing a little bit less of that.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think they should do something like just updating wise, just kind of make things look a little bit prettier? Do you think they should just kind of try and roll all those out, like kind of take a time to focus on just that, or you think they should just kind of do it gradually like they have been?
I'll throw it over to Cooper first.
Well, I think that's what this 3-month period is going to be. Before the release of the game, that those final 3 months before that actually, its release, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of model updates. You're going to see. I think we still didn't get the second half of the Conquest map improvements that we were told we were going to get. When they did the dark versus light side, there was in that patch notes it said more improvements to come, and we haven't really seen any improvements since that patch. So I think we're going to see a prettier Conquest. We're going to see more cards definitely being, because the release of the game, Tencent's going to want all the Chinese gods updated. Maybe Neja will get something updated like that. But yeah, I mean, during the 3 months, stuff like that will definitely be ironed out.
Okay. Yeah, my thought. I mean, I could agree with you there. That's also something that even if they don't do directly within beta, they can do after the game launches. I mean, there's no like fine tape that you have to go through. I mean, that's the type of stuff where to me, I'd rather see them work on that after the game launches compared to the next 3 months, because I feel like there's much more important things to work on than god cards that will make or break the game. So that's definitely
Very true.
Yeah, my thought there. Well, thank you, Lucid.
I do like that thought too. Yeah.
Thank you, Lucid, for coming on. I appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on my own stream, and thank you very much for calling in tonight.
Yeah, thank
thanks.
you for having me. Have a great night, yo.
You too. You too.
You too, man.
All right, let's go ahead and take another question from Ask.fm here. This is actually a really good question here, directly towards Cooper. It says, how does he feel about short notice that teams will have to get for the 100K tournament from qualifying, and its effects that it'll have on the organization? So as we kind of talked about, guys, the last tournament, I guess, that qualifies is, so it'll be like January 4th, which is a Saturday, which kind of starts that weekend of weekly tournaments. And then it'll go through January into February. And I guess, when does it end? Is it the 22nd, Cooper, of February? That weekend?
22nd of February.
Okay. That's a correction from what I said at the beginning of the show, which was the 28th. So to the 22nd. And then a little bit more than 30 days later, the tournament occurs. So just to kind of give you guys an idea. So once again here, the question is, how does Cooper feel about short notice that teams will have to get to the 100K tournament from qualifying, and its effect on the organization?
Yeah, I mean, 3 months is a short period of time, definitely. It does affect us in terms of, because we're North American based and they're European based, we obviously have to get them travel visas, we have to get them permits to come over here and do their job,
Sure.
things like that. But I'm sorry about that phone.
Hello, housekeeping.
Chuck that over there. So anyway, so obviously it affects things like that. It affects prices, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the roster change is a big help for us.
Okay.
I mentioned this before. Basically, in the past, we would see organizations, or more so the teams within the organizations, they would get rid of a player or two and replace them because they felt it would improve their team, obviously,
Sure.
or some kind of fallout happened. With the new roster rules, where you can't really join a team if you were already on a past team,
Yeah.
it actually helps us secure players' flights and hotels a lot better.
Yeah.
So now we know that the 5 we're going into week 1 with January is the 5 we're going to be sending to the 100K, which is really good. But realistically, the 3 months is going to be a little bit pricey than if they announced it 5 months ago when we had time. But it is still a fair amount of time to get things set.
Yeah, and you got to think of it too. Like, you're really only going to have like just over 30 days. Like, I mean, coming from your position and where you've seen Mortality do over the past several weeks, you kind of have an impression like, okay, the team is going to do well enough that I feel that they're going to be in the top 4. So as an organization, you can already start prepping for that because they have placed within the top 3 easily over the past several weeks. So, think of it from another team perspective, though. Like, it could be hit or miss, and they don't know if they're going to do it. And there's a lot of expenses, like airfare, which will get even more expensive as we get closer. Hotel stay is going to get more expensive as you get closer. And then the biggest thing you talked about was visas. Like, do you apply for the visas now? It could be more expensive. It's going to be pricey, I assume, for the visas. And then, let's say the team doesn't qualify. Well, all of a sudden you got these visas and your team's not going anywhere. Or you know what I mean? Is that something that kind of is? It's really a gamble, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. And what's unfortunate is I would say that the short notice is more of a hit on the teams that aren't sponsored than the organizations.
Sure.
The organizations are there to have the money and have the resources to take care of the players that they're picking up. So even though, yes, it is a pity party for us, let's say, we are the top dogs in terms of organization.
Sure.
Not Mortality, but organizations are that's what everyone strives to be. But you may have, I'm thinking more North American side than anything. You may have a team that has to wait until the last week of competition to see if they're, if they win that tournament, they may actually be going. And then you really only have 2 weeks to get your flights. And from there, it goes from $200 up to $500, depending upon where you're located. So organization side, it sucks. But team-wise, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, it's something interesting as we talked about visas, which is really important because, like, we just talked about, we just saw actually a few weeks back, and those of you guys that follow just esports in general, there was a player in the StarCraft 2 scene that got a visa. I think he came over from Korea to the U.S., and it was qualified as an athletic sports visa for playing video games. It was in the StarCraft 2 scene, which is a huge step for the competitive esports scene in general. So I'm hoping that'll work out as well for Smite. Something that Hi-Rez Nabil in chat had actually just said as we talked about this is he said Hi-Rez is going to handle all the visas. He said that they'll make sure everyone gets one. So that takes a little bit more off of the foreign teams, as that is definitely a huge stressor outside of finances, and I bet you that's a relief for you as well.
Oh, I'm cheering right now. I mean, if I could stand up and yell, that would be amazing. But I'll try not to do that. But no, Nabil, that's amazing. Hi-Rez, from what I've heard, this is going to be my first event. Hopefully, if my team qualifies, that I'll be going to. But I've heard that they've done a very good job of taking care of the teams in the past. So that's just another step that they're doing. So definitely applause to them.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go ahead and bring in another caller here. They've been on deck for a little bit. Senadis? I apologize if I butcher your names. Let's go ahead and it's either he or she. Not really sure. So if I do say he, like how's it going, man, or something like that, please don't be offended. It's just some people's names, it's hard to tell, like if it's a male or female. So let's go ahead and bring that in. And looks like we're bringing them in. So Senadis, how's it going? Welcome to Smite Talk.
Hey, man.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Good. So what do you want to talk about today?
I mean, I was just wondering with the new changes that are coming up with Smite and stuff, like, what are they possibly thinking of changing next, or what's coming up with, I don't know, the new tournaments coming up?
Sure, sure. Well, the weekly, literally, I feel like if you're just looking at, if you're a new player and just looking to start to look at the competitive scene, this is just to everybody, not necessarily you, with the tournament scene, start watching the weekly tournaments like this next upcoming week, because they're going to be insane, because it's $100,000 pretty much on the line over the next several weeks. And it's no time to make roster changes, because as Cooper had said, you can't make roster changes now. And so it's super, super important to keep that under control. The scene is going to be, it's going to be nuts to see how it works out over the next 8 weeks or so. And then we have the 100K tournament coming up, which is the next big tournament. After that, we haven't really heard anything yet. There hasn't been any organizations that have picked up the game of Smite. I'm hoping that we don't. Part of me hopes and part of me doesn't hope that we just constantly keep seeing Hi-Rez throwing money at the competitive scene. I kind of feel for them. Like, you guys are dishing out the money, you're fueling the scene, but let's see some other sponsors appear that are going to pay for stuff. Because, as much as we love Hi-Rez, we definitely want to see other organizations starting to come in. So unless you know of something else, Cooper, after the 100K tournament, do you know of anything big?
I do know that eRes said that there will be an international tournament
Okay.
in 2014 after the 100K.
Okay.
So that'll definitely be before December that happens. And international guys, meaning Chinese teams included, and of course any other region. I don't know where it'll be held. I don't know anything other than there will be one.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine that might be over in China, but that's kind of what our knowledge is on the tournament question there. In regards to game changes, myself and Cooper aren't privileged to that information, like they'll leak that, but I can say just from what Cooper and I have heard and talked about, it's just that over the next 3 months, it's going to be a lot of balancing and polishing and bug fixes to make it ready for the launch of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
That's what's going to be great is, all these bugs. And like you said, polishing the game is what these 3 months are going to be about, really making sure that everything is, people were complaining beforehand that the game isn't being balanced towards competitive. Well, play these next 3 months because they will be.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. What other questions you got, sir?
I think that's all I got for you guys right now.
Oh, okay. Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you going ahead and calling in. And I think you're actually a first-time caller. Is that correct?
I am.
All right, awesome. Well, please make sure you call back on future shows, and have a good night.
All right. Good night, guys.
See ya.
All right, so let's go ahead. Let's take another question here from ask.fm/OctanePro, if you guys are interested. We'll try to mix it up a little bit. I know not everybody can go ahead and call in, so we'll kind of throw it in here. Let's see here. What do we have? One question here, what type of computers will be at the tournament in Atlanta? We don't really know. Just as we said before, we don't really know what peripherals will be allowed or not allowed. At least none of that has been publicized. Cooper might know something. I might know something, but if it's not publicized, we can't exactly put it out there. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm not going to leak anything.
That's right. You're going to be the guy that leaks something on Smite Games channel? Go for it.
No. Definitely not.
Let's see. Trying to find something here. Here's a good question. What are you looking forward to in the new year for Smite? I'll throw that over to Cooper first.
Definitely where the game's going competitively. We pretty much touched on that. The 100K, really seeing where my team, Mortality, goes. They've said to me that they're going to be dedicated. They said to me that they're going to, take the next step, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely seeing new teams coming into the scene. We can kind of just take a quick talk about it now, which is kind of a big deal. So Cloud9, which is Cloud9 HyperX, I guess, if I want to pronounce it properly, they went ahead and picked up a team within the Smite community, and the team they picked was all but 4 players, or all but 1 player was originally SK Gaming, then and I think the pronunciation is Azure, and then moved on to Cloud9 HyperX, and they pulled all the players except for Proxy QQ. I don't know what happened there, but they ended up bringing in SunTouch to replace him there, and so we're seeing Cloud9 HyperX actually coming into the scene, which not only brings another organization into the scene, but also brings in a whole bunch of sponsors, which is a really, really big deal. Some of their sponsors are iBuyPower, HyperX, Astro. You have G Fuel, Asus. Those are big sponsors. Now I don't know a ton about Cloud9. I do know they have a pretty decent League of Legends team. Is there more information that you know about them?
I do know that they were a part of Quantic Gaming before they got bought out
Okay.
as a division of Team Solo Mid recently.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of they have some sort of partnership there with Team Solo Mid. I don't know if it's fully under that, but Cloud9 is a separate entity on its own. So yeah, like you said, their league team has been incredible. They're obviously a world-class organization,
Sure.
And the guy who runs it, Jack Edney, he's a winner. He's proven it, and he's going to
Sure.
bring the Smite team really good things.
Yeah, and that's a huge impact. And to give you guys an idea, like when Team Dignitas came into the scene, it was a huge step for everybody at that point. And then when we go ahead and see before that, like Root stepped into the scene and Curse stepped into the scene, and that was another huge step for the esports scene. So, this is another step. I feel like this organization is large enough that it's another step for the esports scene in order to take us to that next level to start to compete with some of the other big players within the MOBA scene from an esports level. So, yeah, pretty exciting there. And that's kind of that's what I'm looking forward to in 2014. I want to see more of these organizations coming into the scene. More sponsors coming to the scene. That's more money for the players. That's more exposure, and so that's really cool. I mean, it was interesting because I looked at who was it? It was it was I think it was Sayo's stream, and 2 days ago Sayo had 76 followers, and he was getting 10, 20, 30 viewers at once. Well, all of a sudden now he's under the Cloud9 title. And he goes ahead and now is streaming today, and all of a sudden he has 350 viewers, which is not something that he's seen there. And he's got a whole bunch of followers now, and it's because now he falls on Twitch under that category of Cloud9, which a lot of followers for League of Legends and stuff like that, follow that. So all of a sudden he's bringing over. So now all of a sudden we have all these new people coming to watch the Smite scene. It's bringing more attention to the Smite scene, and the team's getting the attention that they deserve. So I think it's pretty cool there to see that type of stuff that is going on, and so that's something I look forward to in 2014. We'll go ahead and bring in Mr. Nice Guy here in a minute to see what type of questions he has for us, and let's go ahead and bring him in now. Mr. Nice Guy, are you there, sir? Maybe. Hey.
Yeah.
There you are.
How's it going?
Welcome to Smite Talk. What do you want to talk about today?
Hold on one sec. I'm listening to your stream. Let me mute that.
That is fine. Completely understandable. You don't want to hear me twice. Come on now.
Yeah. Oh, what I actually wanted to ask was the balancing between ranged and melee characters. I don't think it's really balanced.
Okay, I'll throw that over to Cooper. Cooper, what are your thoughts on the ranged versus melee characters and the balance they do?
Oh God. Oh no, I got to turn my pro side on now. So I mean, it's not just a complaint that Smite has, really. I mean, I've heard this going all the way back to League of Legends, and it is kind of tough. But I think the balance is pretty good, actually. I mean, obviously the melee will have a bit higher damage potential, such as if you have an Artemis versus a tier, for instance. I guess Artemis isn't a good... on her versus a tier.
Sure.
There's potential for both of them to come out the winner in that 1v1 situation, but more than likely the tier is probably going to win.
Sure.
And that's just because he has more burst with his abilities up front. He has to get closer to do his damage. There's more of a risk there involved. But at the same time, I mean, I don't think it's unbalanced. There's problems on both ends, but I think they've done a pretty good job on it. There's not much to say there.
Yeah, I guess my question back to you, Mr. Nice Guy, is just what makes you say that you feel, or why do you feel that one is stronger than another, with range versus melee?
The range, they can obviously attack from a distance, and when you get close, they just run away or jump away. It's kind of hard to get in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean,
just find that
okay.
pretty hard.
Sure. I think Cooper did a pretty good.
Especially like when you go against solo, like solo lane against a ranged character, like I feel pretty much screwed.
Sure.
No,
Sure.
yeah, I hear you, man. I mean, recently we've actually seen like an Apollo kind of go in the solo lane, which is something a lot of teams are doing, or even in the ranked league. But once you get higher up in the scale, that kind of goes away, and it goes away because the range are they're so vulnerable and squishy. Yes, they all have a dash or some sort of escape, unless you're Artemis, which you really don't, unless you want to use your boar or trap. But as a melee bruiser, which you typically find in the solo lane, my best advice to you is just try and bully them out. Most solos that you're going to play, such as Tyr or Guan, you can pretty much go past the minions and just start bullying them, and they'll lose XP or gold on the creeps. So if you can keep the ranged AD back far enough because you have that early game advantage, you should be fine. Don't let them bully you out. You're the bruisers, so definitely go in hard on them, and don't be afraid of them because they're pretty weak until they get their items. That's the whole thing about ranged AD. They're weak until they get all their items built up.
Sure. So
Okay.
what other questions you got for us, sir?
I did have a question earlier, but I think the first guy you guys had in here about the new gods coming in, like
Yep.
Jeb, whatever his name is, what he might be.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Uh,
cool.
they said he was a guardian.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
well, I thought I heard that he was a warrior, but I could be completely wrong. I may have misheard that. I did see one guy in the chat say he was a guardian, and then get timed out by Moobot. But yeah, so
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see what as more information becomes released. I mean, I know we got. I think they said like no new gods in 2014. I think is a rumor I heard. So we definitely got some time before we see that next god pop out.
Yeah, hope it's a Norse god.
Right. Yeah. Well, the next god is definitely Egyptian. Just because of looking up Jeb or Geb on Wikipedia. There's some more information there. But all right, man. Well, I appreciate you calling in tonight, and you have a good night.
All right, thank you for having me.
No problem.
yeah, man. See ya.
All right, let's go ahead and move some peoples around. And we'll take another question here, which is a really good question in regards to people wondering, because we're definitely talking about tournaments and stuff like that. Somebody on Ask.fm had asked, he had said, "Hey, Octane, some friends and I have been playing Smite for about 2 months and was thinking we should play in a tournament. Do you know how to get into a tournament?" So there's quite a few tournaments that are out there. Are you looking at 3 versus 3? You're looking at arena? Are you looking at casual fives? Are you looking at more competitive scene like the Hi-Rez scene? I guess there's a multitude of different ways. And am I correct? I've never had to sign up for any of the weekly tournaments because I'm not a competitive player, but they sign up directly on the eSports site, on the Smite eSports site for Hi-Rez.
Oh God, I know this. I'm a manager. Come on. I don't think you actually have to sign up anymore. I think
Okay.
you just have to contact the admin with your team
Okay.
and the 5 players.
Okay.
And as long as you check in with the admin for whichever region, you're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like I'm looking at our eligibility and requirements here. It just says signing up for any weekly means you've read the rules. Each player. Okay, so there are some requirements if you are looking to play at least in the high-res tournaments. And so
Right.
what I would recommend is go over to esports. What is it? Esports Smite Game. Yeah, esports.smitegame.com, and that is the esports site. Go to rules and check out the rules. And there's a lot of really good information over there. There are some other tournaments in the scene. I know Tier Monster has a number of tournaments. You can sign up directly on that page. I know that Smite Tube has their 3 versus 3 every week. So definitely visit the site and go from there. I encourage you to go do it. I mean, don't be intimidated at all, please. Like, I think there is plenty of tournaments out there for people that are looking to take it from, hey, me and a group of 5 friends play together, to casually, to all of a sudden, hey, I am looking to take this a little bit more competitive, and kind of go from there. So let's go ahead. Our next let's go ahead and bring in Glick. And we'll bring Glick in just a second. I want to do one more question here from Ask.fm for us.
Sure.
Let's see. Going through these. Some of them are like repetitive, definitely repetitive. Some aren't really on topic, so I'll kind of skim through them. Let's see. Oh, there's another tournament one. How do I get into a tournament? Here's a good one. Like everyone who wants to know, how do I get into a sponsored group? What steps do I need to take other than playing the game? So I'll put that over to Cooper as a team owner.
Sure. It's not as simple as winning. I'm going to throw that out there right now. You obviously have to be consistent with your play and win some titles, but just because you're the top team doesn't necessarily mean that you're right for a sponsor or you're right for an organization. As I explained at the beginning of the show, we wanted a very particular set of personalities. We wanted a very particular set of people under our name, and it wasn't the top. You know, we could have easily contacted, one of the top teams that wasn't sponsored and definitely made them an offer. But, imaginary team at the time fit our bill. We liked what they had, and we went with them. So
Sure.
I would definitely say the three things that you need, though, is commitment, same thing. Commitment, you need to win, and you obviously need to, mesh well with each other. If you don't mesh well with each other and you're just 5 players hoping to make it, you won't. You need to have good communication and
Sure.
really play the game well with each other.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's another, a very similar question here was, do you think Hi-Rez should host more amateur tournaments to help smaller teams get introduced to the top competitive scene? Yes and no. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I always encourage more tournaments within the scene, but why does it have to be Hi-Rez? And I'm kind of calling out other organizations out there. Why does Hi-Rez have to be hosting the tournaments for you? Other organizations should be stepping up, putting it together. There's plenty of teams out there. There's plenty of websites trying to pop up. Like a good example, Tier Monster, they are not directly affiliated with Hi-Rez, but they're hosting tournaments. So they're hosting more and more tournaments actually as the weeks go on, but it shouldn't have to be Hi-Rez. They're the publisher of the game. Why do they have to do all the hosting of the tournaments? So I encourage more organizations to kind of step up on that. Do you feel differently, or do you think Hi-Rez should be doing it, or what are your thoughts?
No, I feel the same way. I mean, the company of the game is definitely doing their well right now. Hi-Rez is promoting the actual competitive high play esports right now. Riot doing the same thing. They're not really putting any amateur leagues out there. It's just all professional. Any esports across the board. StarCraft 2, it's doing the same thing. That question comes more down to just how gaming has been cultured right now.
Sure.
There's not really an amateur league for gaming right now. So I definitely agree that other organizations need to step up and do it. I think we're going to see that with some of these, Cloud9 coming in. You'll start to see an Astro Invitational every month or something like that. And maybe the pros will be busy on another tournament. You can enter that. So, I agree.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and bring in Glick and see what questions they have. How's it going, Glick? Welcome to Smite Talk.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
It's going good. So what do you want to talk about today?
I was actually going to post this on Reddit, but I realized I might as well just ask you directly.
Yeah.
So a few months ago, there was a big change to the way gold worked in response to the way that snowballing was happening.
Yes.
They had this big vote on Reddit: is snowballing a problem?
Yep.
And apparently it was, because they made all these kind of huge game-changing changes to the game. One being the tower depriving you of gold if you hit minions, and also killing people didn't actually give you that much gold anymore. So I just want to see how you think it panned out and what your opinions on that were.
Sure. I'll start first and then throw it over to Cooper. So I can see how they made that. I mean, I like where it's gone. The reason being is because I feel like before these changes, we saw a lot of okay, let's ignore the objectives and just focus on a giant deathmatch killing spree. Therefore, they made the alterations in order to make it a little bit more favored towards the objectives, in order to have people, focusing those towers at every point in the game, compared to let's just get up a bunch of kills and then just walk right through the towers like they're nothing. So I was kind of happy about that from a gold perspective, where they put the value on that from. And definitely with the minions as well. Like when the minions go ahead and press the tower, if the tower hits it, there isn't a gold rewarded, is what you were talking about. I'm kind of glad about that. It kind of makes a player, play more defensively. Whereas before it was just the tower will take care of it, or I'll just jump in and clean it up, whatever. So I'm happy the direction it went. What are your thoughts, Cooper, on just the changes that we've seen?
Yeah, I mean, it makes the game more technically or mechanically sound. You know, now that they did that, before it was kind of just it was a ganking, running around, see how many kills you could get early on, and then if you got 5 before the 10-minute mark, GG, you won.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of more you have to actually time things, and we see a lot more of the ADCs. You know, in the lanes, they're playing more tactical, they're playing smarter, they're waiting for the Guardians to engage on that. So I like it. At first when it came out I didn't, but it's has less to do with I didn't like the change. It was more I wasn't used to it. So that's more why I didn't like it. But
Yep.
now that we've
Yeah.
had a good couple months to, you know, actually see it in, I definitely think it reduces snowballing and it was a needed change.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way. I think when I first started, I was really frustrated because, I love playing ADC, and I feel like that was a kind of a direct nerf to ADC in a way because, if you can get that double kill in dual lane, you start snowballing and then you carry a whole game. Now it doesn't really work like that anymore. You have to play really differently. Like kill lanes like Sobek and her got nerfed just like indirectly through that,
Sure. No, I think it's
Pretty much
it's a
every
really good
kill
point.
lane got nerfed. I mean, on her, you can get 7 kills, before the 15-minute mark, and you still have to play as a team. You still have you can't just go right into an Artemis, because the Artemis is farming just as much as you, and that's the other thing it changed. Now you're seeing the ADCs farm a lot more. They're not rotating around the map to get as many kills. So, and it's because the gold is obviously lower, so you need to farm up to get your items. So.
What other questions do you have for us tonight?
I think that's about it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Make sure you call back in. I appreciate you calling in.
Thanks, man.
Sure.
All right. Are you looking good on time?
I'm good, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. I didn't want to be like, all right, we're almost 8 o'clock. Got to cut it off. We had a question in chat, and I'll kind of throw this over to Cooper here first. This is coming off of the ask.fm website. I'd love to take questions directly out of chat, guys, but seeing as there's hundreds of posts going on at once all the time, it's easier to have a website. So please keep that in mind. It's ask.fm/OctanePro. And then first, so the question here, I'll throw it to Cooper first. Do you feel Hi-Rez Studios could do better at marketing? It's hard to find info on tournaments after they are announced. Example was this past weekend with the 10K tournament. There wasn't really anything on the Smite game website being listed on there as to the date, the time, where to find it, stuff like that. So what have you really seen in the past, Cooper, and what are your thoughts on it?
I'm not gonna say that they can do better. There's two points
Sure,
on this.
sure.
One, I'm gonna say that it's not necessarily doing better. It's that I don't think they've necessarily made they haven't made the attempt to. They're not necessarily contacting every website out there. They're not trying to market their 10K to blow it up big.
Yeah.
Those type of resources are pretty heavy on money in terms of the sites, promotion, things like that. Now, on the other side, though, the 100K, I saw that on IGN. I mean, IGN is the gaming news site out there, so they're definitely doing marketing. I would say that maybe they could make a step forward in doing more marketing, but I think the marketing they've been doing is pretty good. They can't get much better than IGN in terms of their big announcement, the 100K.
Yeah. I mean, I think what pops into mind for me is using what you have and taking advantage of it. And what I mean by that is something that we haven't seen yet, and maybe this is saved for when the game launches, is the launcher. Right now it's just like an image. Well, let's make that into an advertising area for advertising upcoming eSports or upcoming casual events and stuff like that. Use that for advertising it just to get the word out, because you got to think, not everyone who plays Smite isn't going to know all the events that are going on or any of the big news going on. Integrate some of that great news that you guys have on Smite game. Bring that over to the launcher. Or when you load up Smite and you type in your username and password, all of a sudden, instead of having the god, the newest god standing there, doing their animations, take advantage of that real estate and put up on there, in integration to the site. So when I go on there, it says, upcoming tournament, 100K tournament, and you can click here for more details. Awesome. All of a sudden people watch it, or check out this event, this tournament going on now. Now, granted, that's going to take a whole other layer of staff to really manage that day in and day out. But if you could have that type of feed going on in-game, where I think it should be, not on a website, but in-game, I think that type of advertising would work well, especially for marketing, because look at other games out there. Your StarCraft 2, which like it has it built in right into the game. You load up the game, and the first thing on like a major tournament event day, the first thing people see is, WCS for StarCraft 2 going on right now. Check out the World Finals. Click here. I mean, that's huge. Because look at the player base that doesn't usually watch it, or Riot, or Dota 2 with like their big event. So I think there's a lot that can be done within the marketing. I just don't know if it's going to be down the road or sooner than later.
Yeah, and I mean, right now in the Smite client, I definitely agree with all those points. Right now in the Smite client, you have that little side like link that says, Smitten streaming or Octane Pro streaming, but it's not big with a huge graphical banner. And I think that's what they need, instead of, just include it on that little slider that you have, in the center of the screen. Just have it stay there as a big banner. It says 10K going on right now. Click here to watch it live.
Sure.
And integrate it to pop up in the browser, so you don't have to, go to your Google Chrome or something. But, there's also a lot of back-end stuff that we may not know about.
Exactly.
GameSpot, for instance. Who knows if they have some sort of Riot contract that now that Smite is gaining traction, they can't promote Smite. Or who says, Hi-Rez marketing team isn't contacting these websites and they're just not putting the content up. So, again, we really don't know. Marketing is pretty tricky. It'd definitely be nice to be able to go to every website and see something Smite, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I feel like this question is maybe geared toward. I mean, me personally, I feel like the question is more geared towards. It could be geared towards either marketing just in general, like, oh, I'm going to see Smite commercials on TV, or it's geared towards just the people that play it right now and just making them aware. And it sounds like just making them aware of the tournament, because that's the big thing. I mean, not every person reads Reddit. Not every person keeps up with that, and I feel like we could grow the eSports scene by, as this person kind of mentioned, by marketing and advertising in your game. It's free real estate. Take advantage of it, especially with the amount of accounts that Smite has now, I think the possibilities are definitely available there. So let's go ahead. Let me see. Let's check here. Kind of checking to make sure we have a lot of callers calling in, just making sure they're there, didn't go AFK or anything like that. We'll take another question here. Let's see. Let's see. It says, as we will or maybe see Chinese players in the scene of professional Smite 2014, would you as a team, Mortality, watch their tournaments to get an idea of their meta standpoint? I'll throw that over to you since I can't really answer that.
For the other teams that are up and coming?
Yeah, I guess just looking at the Chinese market.
Sorry, the sound went out.
No,
there.
that's okay. The question again was, as we will maybe see Chinese players in the scene of professional Smite in 2014, would you as a team, Mortality, watch their tournaments to get an idea of their meta standpoint moving forward?
Sure. So it's kind of been talked about time and time again, that Chinese meta,
Sure.
the scary thing that everyone doesn't want in their game.
Sure, sure.
But I think it comes down to, we're all going to do our research. There's actually Team Dignitas. I think we can all agree that they've actually been a team that has, been put on the record, and they do a lot of research of their opponents, probably more than a lot of other teams.
Sure.
And we'll certainly do our research when it comes to those international tournaments, but we won't change our game style. And this is me speaking as the manager.
Yeah.
We won't change our game style compared to how the Chinese play. We're not going to. We may take some implements and implement some things that they do. Who knows? Herc may be the most overpowered god in the game, and that may be something that translates over to us. But we're certainly not going to take their strategies and implement it. We have our own game style. We're confident in our game style, and that's the reason we play our game style, is to beat those Chinese teams. So.
Sure. No, I think that's a very good point there. Let's go ahead and bring in our next guest calling in here. We do have Hello Kevin. Hello Kevin, welcome to Smite Talk. How's it going, sir?
Hey, man.
You?
Good. So what do you want to talk about today?
I was just asking a question because how Hi-Rez made Global Agenda and Tribe Ascend, and after they released those games, like, they just stopped paying attention to them, not even updating them.
Sure.
Do you think a couple months after Smite's release, do you think that would happen to it?
No, I think it's a very good question, and I think, as Cooper kind of said, there are some things that happen in the past or when you're first starting out that kind of stick with your name, and this is definitely one of them. People are very concerned in the Smite community regarding what's going to happen to Smite after it launches, and we've had numerous people with working for Hi-Rez stating, hey, things aren't going to fall off. The patches are going to continue. The gods are going to continue. They may slow down a little bit where we're not seeing gods being released once a month or once every, I guess, like 6 weeks, we could say. That is going to slow down. And I can understand that. That makes sense. They're going to be working on different things. But they've reassured us that Smite is their baby. Smite is profitable, without a doubt. And that there's more potential in Smite than this is me saying this. There's more potential in Smite than what there was for Tribes. Tribes wasn't the first-person shooter, whereas with Smite, it's pretty much the first third-person MOBA, though. So that's just kind of my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, I can see the frustration there because it wasn't just once, it was twice that it happened, and I was not involved with either of those games. I never even played them. But and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the beta, if there was a beta for those games, was as long as Smite, as big as Smite, or anything. I mean, Tencent picked up Smite in beta. That's what you have to think of. And I think that Tencent picking up Smite so early on, before its release, only strengthens the fact that they're not going to give it up. Yeah. Because now, even though Hi-Rez has a lot of creative control, there is a lot that they don't, especially with the Chinese Pantheon. So Tencent isn't just going to let them throw it away for Global Agenda 2, when they start working on that. It's something that Tencent is publishing now over in the Chinese market. It's something that they're involved in now. And I really wouldn't be too worried about it. If you are a Tribes player, Kevin, I don't know. But if your whole reasoning, I don't know if you play Smite, anything like that, but if you're holding back, and this goes to all the Tribe players that are holding back as well, play Smite or continue to play Tribes. They're both good games. And it sucks that maybe the servers aren't getting as much as, Tribes may want, but they're not throwing away Smite. It will stay. It's got a lot of traction, a lot of big tournaments coming up.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to end it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. What other questions do you have there, Kevin?
That's all I had.
All right, well, I appreciate you calling in, man.
Thanks.
You have a good night.
You too.
All right, we'll take another few questions from Ask, and then we'll take our last caller here. Let's take a look here. So we have a question here. I'll throw it to Cooper first. Do you think Hi-Rez is going to have improvements to their servers as the community is growing bigger and bigger? They seem to like their current servers. And those of you guys not familiar, there's been a lot of posts on Reddit. There's been some issues here and there on server side. People complaining. There's been some high pings. There's been some server restarts, problems here and there. The Linux server is not working right. We got to get rid of it, move to a Windows server. So we've seen a lot of that going on. And myself and Cooper cannot speak directly for Hi-Rez whatsoever, so we can only give our opinion here. So once again, the question, Cooper, is do you think Hi-Rez is going to have improvements to their servers as the community is growing?
Absolutely. I mean, they're going to need to, especially with the Chinese servers and the maintenance and everything like that. But, I mean, recently, Stu made a post that, I think it was Stu. Was it Chris or Stu?
One of the two.
I think one of them. I don't know, but he made a post on Reddit basically saying that they're going to be doing work on the servers over the next couple months. Great. So to bear with them. And what I've seen is basically no one bearing with them. Just complete hate posts on the Reddit and everything like that. So they're working on things. They're trying to get it better. I do believe I saw a Reddit post the other day, or maybe it was a tweet, that they went to a different server and there was problems with it. So now they're going back to the old server, which was more stable. So they are trying new things out, but yeah, they'll definitely improve them. There's no doubt about it.
I did an interview a little while back with Hi-Rez Todd, and we kind of talked about like the server structure and how that's worked out, and how their servers are built in a cluster, and the locations of the server, like Atlanta and Amsterdam and stuff like that for NA and then EU, and thoughts on expanding that. And from what he had talked about, they have the ability to go ahead and turn up servers on the fly in order to deal with demand, and they're looking at bringing more servers, one central, one west coast, whatever, in order to allow for better ping times for the players. Keep in mind, guys, like, I think it's kind of funny, I'm playing the game DayZ right now as well, and when you first log into DayZ, DayZ is an alpha. versus where Smite is in beta. When you first log in, there's a message. It's like 2 sentences long, and it says something like, please understand that this game is not published yet. Please understand that this game does have bugs. This game does have problems. And then there's like an I understand button like at the bottom. Pretty much saying, hey, you understand this game is not like out yet. It's still in alpha. It's still in beta. And sometimes I feel like we need to put that up for like Smite, where like people log in. It's like, please understand this game is in beta. There will be server issues. There will be bugs. Please bear with us. Report them as often as you can. And then click the I understand button. Because one, it's in beta. Two, you're not paying for the game. You're paying for microtransactions. It's not like you're playing World of Warcraft and you're paying a monthly fee. Where then I feel like if you were paying a monthly fee for Smite, you could go back to them and be like, listen, I'm paying this amount. I'm running into these issues. What can we do about this? Because I feel like I'm not getting my money's worth. But in this situation, guys, you don't pay for Smite. So I feel like stop complaining and help. Moving on from there, we'll take one more question here. A lot of people are asking, which is really interesting. They're asking about like a looking for a group or a looking for team option. Built into Smite. Is that something that we hope to see in the future? Because we have a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm ready to start to play competitively, or I'm ready to start playing in a group. I play by myself. What's the best way to get involved? So, what are your thoughts on a looking for a group or a looking for team type of modification for the game?
This community needs to pick what they want, because it was in the game. It was there, but then they removed it because everyone complained that it was always up. And they could re-add it in and try and code it a little differently.
Well,
so
that was
if
a
you
chat
exit
room,
it doesn't pop back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They may have a feature in there, but I can't really see how that feature could work. It would have to just be a chat window. There's not much more you could do from that other than playing the actual games and messaging the people in game.
Yeah.
But there is a Reddit. There is a subreddit for looking for group, looking for member, looking for team, all that stuff. So definitely go to the Reddit, check that out. There's a lot of people, a lot of good people that post there and get no responses. So if you're looking for people to play with, go there.
Yeah, I feel like a looking for a group or looking for a team kind of pulls me back to something like World of Warcraft has with looking for a group. You go ahead and jump in, you just click like a button, you do looking for a group. It says, okay, what are you looking to play in that group? Now, granted, with World of Warcraft, you do actually have different positions. Your tank, your healers, or damage. You could kind of categorize that, I guess, if you wanted to, based on the game mode. And they could do something like that. So you could jump in there and go, hey, I'm a jungler looking for a group. And then, it would find a jungler. Okay, it would find, a mid laner, a solo laner, whatever. It would put it together and go ahead and output a group then completely through there. They could do that same thing with teams. What I've started to see on World of Warcraft 2 is there could be a looking for team system where literally you could put your details would go in. You put on there like looking for team, and you'd click there, and you'd fill out like a little bits of information, and it would pull all your info over. So it would pull over like your elo rating and your top 5 gods and stuff like that, and then it would also have like a message from you like looking for mid lane for this type of competition. And then as a team, that would make teams be able to be put together so easily. As a team, you could go through that list and just look through people and filter them out until you find the exact type of player you're looking for. So, what are your thoughts on that, Cooper?
No, yeah, that sounds like a solid idea. A lot of it could just be fixed by improving the profile system. Right now, it's very extensive.
Yep.
If I go to the Smite player profile online and search up a player name, it shows me all their statistics. But maybe go a step further. Maybe allow me to customize it a bit. Have a welcome message where I can put, what I am, my favorite role, what past teams I've been on, things like that. If I go to Zapman's profile, there's no way to really tell the past teams he's been on.
Sure.
So if you're a new player to Smite, you had no idea that he was ever on Curse. You just know right now he's on Team Dig. And then you obviously click through the clan profiles. But yeah, that's a sound idea. I have nothing against it.
All right, Hi-Rez, you can start paying me for my ideas now. Let's go ahead and bring Alpha Raptor in. Alpha Raptor, welcome to Smite Talk. How's it going, sir?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
So, what questions do you have for us tonight?
I got a few.
Sure.
One, it's It's how Hi-Rez is dealing with the new gods and
Sure.
even the redos.
Mhm.
So the Vulcan ult and the Kali ult in particular for me
Yep.
is just how they're dealing with these. So I mean, the going down to 1 health and not being able to be killed, I feel like that's just like that's legitimately game breaking, and it's and all the CC immunity and every ult and just being able to get away with like walking out of a team fight, just willy nilly, like I don't know, it just doesn't seem it just seems cheesy. Like,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts?
Cooper, I'll throw it over to you first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something that the game has kind of, I'm going to say, handicapped itself into.
Sure.
So many CC immunity ults now that if you're a god that doesn't have one, or you're a god that doesn't have some sort of CC immunity, it is pretty tough to make it into competitive play. But me speaking from, that, not high play, but not bronze either. As you start to get higher in the ranks, if the competitive players thought it was OP, then it. Not to say that you're wrong, but not everyone thinks that way, and it sucks that. Let's say, for instance, Chalk. He has damage immunity and CC immunity when he's in his ultimate or casting for his ultimate. And it certainly seems strong, but when you look at all the other gods in the game that have CC immunity, it goes in line with everything else. So from that standpoint, you kind of just play off positioning. It's not just Vulcan that has a CC immunity. It's
Okay,
Artemis.
okay.
It's on her.
My next kind of, I don't know, maybe not question, but point of discussion would be the base damage for abilities being able to clear waves just on their own, like just one ability.
Yep.
Say like Ao Kuang's and what else? Raw's one,
Yep.
just being able to clear just by maxing it purely.
Yep.
I mean, you can get away with doing very poor in a match and just losing entirely, and you can still hold your own. Like, kind of, I don't know. I don't know how. It's interesting, but I don't know how I feel about it.
Sure. I mean, there are certain gods that
Yeah,
have
I
a
mean,
higher.
it's.
Go ahead, Cooper. I'll let you take it.
Sorry, man.
Fine.
No, I mean it definitely is another thing that they handicap themselves into. There is not a lot of there's not a lot of skill in clearing a creep wave. There's not a lot of battling for it. It's in the side lane when you have a hunter and a guardian lane, the guardian just lets the hunter farm. It's just I'm on her. I'm gonna impale the wave, get all the minion gold, and wait for the next wave. But I think something that this game has put an emphasis on is the team fights and the team play, and that's where you can't get away with it. You can certainly farm for quite a long time and hold your own in the lane, but if you're not rotating as a hunter, if you're not in the team fights and the other one is, chances are your team's going to lose the game. So yeah, you can farm pretty well, but in the end, it comes down to the team play and your positioning, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Cooper there. I mean, there are certain gods that have a little bit higher sustainability with like solo lanes or mid lanes that make them a much better god to play that position compared to someone else. Is it too strong, overpowered per se for lane clear? Yes, and that's the point. Like you do have certain gods in game that are better at lane clears than others. There's no way they're going to balance every god to make them perfectly balanced there. I think everyone not only has a role to play, but also has a specialty. And so, like the gods you named, I mean, their specialty is lane clear, without a doubt. I mean, Ra, Ao Kuang, I mean, they're also, I mean, Ao Kuang, just like recently with some of the changes that have been made to him over the last few weeks, I love him as a mid god because he's so strong right now with those lane clears. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts. You have any other comments on that, Alpha Raptor?
Yeah, I just think that the base damage overall is just a little high, just
Okay,
on
okay.
pretty much every ability. Like I
So would you? How would you see? So would you see? So to make it more balanced for yourself, I mean, I'm trying to see your side of it without a doubt. Would you see altering that, like lowering it a little bit in order to? Is that what you see the way to fix that, or how would you look at it?
Yeah, I feel like it really rewards just not rewards, but how to say it? Like you can get away just leveling off just off base damage, and you know
Sure.
the scaling on certain
Sure.
abilities is higher than others and all that. But just it shouldn't just be a flat out. I can clear it no matter how far behind I am. I can do such a amount of damage,
Sure.
despite how because like gods like Hebo, he never falls off. Just his base damage is super high. He has a 3-second cooldown on his one. His ult is always going to be a factor. Like no matter how far behind he is, he could be 1 in 10. And there's there's other characters who won't do that. But I feel like the prevalence of characters who can, just just off just base damage are this determining factor.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think
like
you have.
that's
Yeah. I think you have a very good point. I mean, without a doubt, I think everyone's perspective is a little bit different on it. Like I see it a little different than Cooper, and Cooper a little different than you and such. But I do agree with you. I mean, there could be some alteration there. Now I have to ask. Just I'm eager to find out what are like your top 3 gods that you like to play.
Agni, Tyr, and no real third position. I guess Neath.
Okay. And just looking at them, I can definitely see like where you're coming from. Like those gods, for example, you're not going to see any of them clearing a lane so easily, like Ra can with his first ability, or Alcryne can with his like tornado. So I could definitely see where your perspective is coming from with the gods that you play the most, without a doubt. I mean, do you agree, Cooper?
I mean, I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree.
Okay.
I definitely think that the base damages are fine in where